Why is there a country on the verge of losing half of its population? And what could this massive population collapse mean for the rest of the world? Just a decade ago, China was depicted as an emerging superpower that would soon overtake the United States. The Chinese Communist Party and much of Western media both argued that China's rise to power was nearly unstoppable. This narrative was largely based on China's massive population. The country's young workforce enabled it to become the manufacturing center of the entire world. Its growing domestic market attracted billions in foreign investment, and its huge population made China a force to be reckoned with on the international stage. But now, the People's Republic of China faces what is quite possibly the worst demographic crisis in history. The country is shrinking for the first time since Mao's disastrous Great Leap Forward. And by the end of this century, China is expected to lose more than 700 million people, cutting its population in half. And this population collapse has already begun. In April 2023, India surpassed China as the world's largest country. This monumental geopolitical shift led to a wave of news articles pointing out that China's political leaders are now desperately attempting to reverse course, going out of their way to try and raise the country's birth rate. But it may be too late. So how do we go from fearing the rise of China to now witnessing the collapse of the country's population in real time? And ironically enough, the Chinese Communist Party has no one to blame but themselves. In the 1970s, CCP leaders began to fear that China was becoming overpopulated. Much of these concerns came about from the work of people like Paul Ehrlich and his book, The Population Bomb. Ehrlich argued that drastic authoritarian measures were needed to curtail population growth to prevent the complete collapse of civilization. In response to these fears, the CCP implemented China's infamous one-child policy in 1980. This campaign was backed by a wave of extreme measures, including tens of millions of sterilizations and forced abortions. The result was a success, so to speak. The CCP got exactly what it wanted, and that was the problem. Government officials wanted to limit population growth, and China's draconian one-child policy did exactly that. Decades of government repression led to a collapse in the birth rate. Political leaders finally began to realize they had gone way too far, lifting the one-child limit to 2 children in 2016, then 3 children, and finally in 2021, the CCP got rid of all population controls. But the damage has already been done. China's fertility rate has been below replacement levels for more than 3 decades, and now there are 30 million more men than women in China. Now, interestingly enough, the very experts that predicted economic depression, conflict, and despair may actually have been proven correct, but not because of population explosion, but rather population collapse. In a horribly ironic twist, an authoritarian government implemented the policies that people like Ehrlich suggested, only to find that the cure that they were offered was the real threat to their civilization. This further demonstrates that authoritarian regimes will always find the appropriate experts to justify the things that they want to do to their population in order to make sure that they can control them.